Some stories begin with a door. This one begins with a gate. A big iron gate in the rain, and a sign that changed everything. It was raining the morning my life changed. Not the soft kind that makes you feel peaceful. The cold kind that gets inside your coat. That finds every gap. I was walking fast with my bag pulled close. My shoes were old. The soles let in the wet. I had $20 in my pocket. My mother was sick at home. There was almost no food left. I whispered to myself as I walked, "Please, one job, just one." Then I saw the iron gate. A board beside it said, "Help wanted, immediate start." My heart moved fast. I pushed the gate open. The house behind it was large and very still, like a place holding its breath. I knocked. Once, then again, the door opened. A tall man stood there. His eyes looked like he had not slept in a long time. His voice was deep and flat. He said, "Yes," just that one word. "Sir, I came about the job." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "Come tomorrow at 8. Be on time." He closed the door. I stood on the step in the rain, not sure if it was real. I whispered thank you to nobody in particular. That night, I told my mother I got work. She smiled at me from her bed. Her voice was thin. She said, "Work hard, my Lena, and do not lose your kindness." I promised her I would not. The next morning, I arrived early. A woman showed me around and told me what to do. I cleaned, I washed, I folded. The house had many rooms but felt empty. No music, no voices, only the sound of my own footsteps. At lunchtime, I saw him again. His name was Mr. Ethan Gray. He sat alone at the window with papers spread in front of him. He did not look up when I placed his tray. I said, "Your coffee, sir." He nodded, said nothing. His eyes looked like they were somewhere far away, somewhere he could not come back from. Days passed like that. He never smiled, never asked anything. The house stayed quiet and still. And then one evening, I found something. I was cleaning his study when I saw a photograph on the floor. A woman and a small boy. The woman was laughing, the kind of laugh that fills a room. I placed it carefully on his desk. When he came in, he stopped. "Did you touch this?" he asked. His voice was not angry. It was something worse than angry. It was broken. I said, "It was on the floor, sir." He looked at me, really looked. Then he turned away. "You can go," he said. That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking about his face, about the woman in the photograph. I did not know why I cared. I was just a maid, but I did care. I cared more than I should have. A few weeks later, I was dusting the shelves when I heard a sharp sound behind me. A glass had fallen from his hand and broken. Blood came from his finger. I moved quickly. I said, "Wait, sir," and pressed a cloth against the cut. He looked at me with surprise, not because of the cut, because of me. He said, "You are not afraid of me." I looked at him. "Why would I be?" I said. Something changed in his eyes, small and careful, like a light trying to come back on in a room dark for a long time. He said quietly, "Thank you, Lena." Hearing my name from him felt strange, almost sweet. That evening, I called my mother and told her. "He is not a bad man," I said. "He is just very lonely." She said, "Then make his world a little brighter, my child." I laughed. "I'm just the maid I said." She said, "Sometimes maids fix hearts too." I decided that day I would not only clean his house, I would try to bring some life back to it. One afternoon, I found him sitting with the photograph again, the woman, the boy. He said quietly, "She was my wife. She and my son died in an accident 3 years ago." I stood very still. He said, "I stopped believing in peace after that." I said, "I am sorry, sir." That night, I thought about what it meant to lose your whole world in one moment and whether a person could ever come back. Then things began to change in the house. Men started coming in the evenings, suits, low voices, leaving quickly. One evening, I forgot my bag and came back. I heard one man say to another, "Ethan does not know a thing." I did not understand what that meant, but it made me feel cold. Later that same night, Ethan said to me quietly, "Lena, if anyone comes asking about me, tell them I'm not here." My heart was beating fast. Something was happening, something I could not see clearly yet, but I could feel it. The way you feel weather before it arrives. When Ethan got sick the following week, I made him soup. I brought his medicine. I sat nearby while he rested. He looked at me from his bed and said, "You do not have to do this." I said, "Someone has to take care of you." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "No one has said that to me in years." I felt something close in my throat. I said, "You should hear it more often." He smiled, his first real smile, small, uncertain, like something waking up that had been asleep for a very long time. That smile stayed with me for days. One morning, I saw an open file on his desk, the words, "Loan transfer, signature pending." I closed it and left, but later he found me nearby and asked, "Did you read anything?" "No, sir," I said. He took a slow breath. He said, "Just be careful around my office." That night, he did not eat dinner. I heard him on the phone, his voice sharp and low. He said, "If you cross me again, I will end the deal." Then silence. I stood in the corridor with my hands cold. The next morning, I went to his study to bring tea. He had left a note on the kitchen table. It said, "Thank you for the soup. You remind me that not everything is lost." I read it 3 times. For the first time, I felt he saw me. Not the maid, me. And then everything broke. One morning, 2 police officers came to the door. They were asking about company fraud, about money taken with Ethan's signature. Ethan did not fight. He just stood up slowly. He looked at me once before they walked him out. That look, tired, helpless, and full of something I could not name. When the door closed, I sat down on the floor. I did not plan to. My legs just gave. I cried. My mother called and I could not speak. I only said, "They took him." I lay in my room and thought about everything I had seen. The men with suits and low voices, the file with strange numbers, a man named Mark who smiled too much. And then it became clear, Mark had done this. Ethan had trusted the wrong person, and the wrong person had used that trust to destroy him. I opened the photos on my phone, the ones I had taken quietly over the past weeks. Mark's signature on a transfer agreement, a half-burned document with an account number, a message that said, "Finish it before she finds out." I looked at those photos for a long time. Then I made a decision. I whispered into the dark room, "I will save you, sir. I promise." The next morning, I went to the company building. I pretended to deliver documents. I saw Mark inside talking and laughing, like nothing had happened, like the truth did not matter. My hands were shaking, but I followed him when he left. He went to a warehouse near the river. I stood behind a wall and listened. He was talking to another man. He said, "Once Gray is finished, the company is ours." The other man said, "What about the maid? She has been asking questions." Mark laughed. "She is just a girl. She will do nothing." I took a photograph of them together. Then a box fell behind me. Mark turned. "Who is there?" he said. I ran. My legs hurt, but I did not stop. I reached the main road and got into a taxi. My phone almost fell from my shaking hand. I whispered, "Please, God, keep me safe." That night, I went to the police station. I showed them everything. The photos, the messages, the account numbers. The officer looked at me with doubt. "You are just a maid," he said. "Why are you so certain?" I looked at him and said, "Because I know him. He can be cold, but he is not a liar." The officer told me to wait. Hours passed. Then he came back and said, "We will look into this." The following day, I went to see Ethan. He was sitting very still. His eyes were empty. I said, "You did nothing wrong. I am going to prove it." He looked at me. "Why would you do this for me?" he said. His voice was barely there. I said, "Because I believe in you, in what is good inside you." He closed his eyes. A tear moved down his face. I took his hand. I said, "You will be free soon." Within days, the police found a bank account in Mark's name. Ethan's signature had been copied. The fraud was not Ethan's. It was never Ethan's. Mark was arrested. When Ethan came home, I opened the door for him. He stood in the entrance and looked at me. He said, "You did it. You saved me." I smiled. I said, "You would have done the same." He shook his head. "I'm not sure about that," he said. "But I will spend a long time trying to be the kind of person who would." Slowly, the house changed. Ethan started talking. Sometimes he laughed. He asked me questions about myself, about my mother, about what I wanted from my life. He listened the way someone listens when they actually care about the answer. One morning, he came to the kitchen while I was making breakfast. He said, "I have something for you." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter from the hospital. My mother's treatment, paid in full, by him. I looked at him. "Why would you do this?" I said. He said, "Because you have done more for me than anyone ever has." I held the envelope to my chest. I could not speak. I just stood there and cried quietly, and he waited. One evening, he came home with news. He said, "The company is safe. Everything is clear." And then he said something I was not ready for. He said, "I want to start a new part of the business, and I want you to run it." I stared at him. "Me," I said. He said, "You are smart and honest, and I trust you. I trust you more than almost anyone I have ever known." That night, I lay awake for a long time. I thought about the iron gate in the rain, the $20 in my pocket, my mother's quiet voice, "Do not lose your kindness." And I thought about him, the man who never smiled, who was slowly learning how. I said the words out loud in my room, to no one but myself. "I think I love him." The words frightened me and freed me at the same time. But then came the day that almost destroyed everything. I was sorting the post one morning when I found an envelope with no name on it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It said, "Your father did not die in an accident. Ask Ethan what really happened." My hands went cold. I waited until Ethan came home. I showed him the letter without saying anything. I just held it out and watched his face. His face told me everything. He sat down slowly. He said, "It is not what you think." My voice was very quiet. "Then tell me what to think," I said. He looked at the floor. He said, "Your father worked for my company years ago. The night he died, he was trying to stop Mark. He had found evidence of what Mark was doing. He was trying to protect the company, trying to protect me." He took a long breath. "I only found out afterward. I did not know how to tell you. I was afraid of losing you." I said, "You lost me by hiding the truth." I went to my room. I packed my bag. I sat on the edge of my bed with the bag beside me, and I stayed there because I could not make myself leave. Because even in my anger, I knew something. He was not a cruel man. He was a frightened one. There is a difference. That night, the police called me. One more man from Mark's group had been caught. In his statement, he said, "Lena's father died saving Ethan's documents. He was loyal to the end." I sat with that for a long time. My father had not died because of Ethan. My father had died for the same things I had almost died for: truth, loyalty, protecting someone who deserved it. The next morning, I went to Ethan. He looked like he had not slept. His eyes were red and his hands were not still. I sat beside him. I said, "You should have told me sooner." He said, "Every time I looked at you, I saw my own guilt. I could not carry both." I said, "You do not need to carry guilt. My father knew what he was doing. He would do it again." He said, "How can you forgive this easily?" I said, "Because I know who you are. You make mistakes, but your heart is good." He stood up. He said, "I want to show you something." He took me to his office. He gave me a document. At the top it said, "The Thomas Miller Foundation," my father's name. My eyes filled. He said, "I started it in his memory. It will help the families of workers who have nothing. It is my way of saying I am sorry." I pressed the document to my chest. I said, "He would be proud of you." Ethan looked at me. He said, "And I am proud of you, Lena." We sat together that evening in silence. No big speeches, no grand promises. Just two people who had both lost something and found each other instead. After a while, he said, "I don't know if I deserve you." I said, "You do not need to deserve love. You just need to protect it." He was quiet. Then he said, "Then I will protect you for as long as you will let me." I looked at this man, this silent, broken, slowly healing man. This man who had once stood at a door with tired eyes and said only, "Yes." I thought about where we had both started and where we were now. I said, "We both lost something, Ethan, but we found each other." He smiled, his real smile, the one that had taken so long to come. He said, "And that is enough for a lifetime."